As a high school English teacher, the most demoralizing part of my job is not student behavior or out of touch state policies, it is grading student writing. This project was my personal fact finding mission to finally tackle the paper stack while offering my students top notch research based feedback that actually helps them become better writers. I discovered that what my students need from me is feedback. Feedback is information that flows back to learners about the quality of their ideas and behavior. Students need this information to make adjustments. Instructors should focus on a strong plan for providing feedback during the writing process first and grades second. To understand the concept of feedback in this context, consider the analogy of archery. You can't improve if you can't see the target and where your arrows fall. This means I need to be very specific about what my students are aiming for and provide the necessary feedback so they can see where their arrows are falling. Students need feedback that shows which specific choice caused a mistake. This is called solving the assignment of credit problem. Feedback must help students detect the cause. Think of a math teacher asking a student to show their work so they can retrace their steps to find exactly where they veered off course. Good feedback is specific. It helps learners locate the discrepancy between the desired goal and the actual outcome. For example, a student aims to write a vivid scene but forgets sensory details. Feedback points this out so they see the discrepancy and know what to do to reach the target. Feedback needs to be timely. There is no set rule for when to deliver feedback, but it should be close enough to the task that students can solve the assignment of credit problem, but not too early that they don't make mistakes. When deciding on a feedback format, ask yourself, how are students going to get the feedback they need fast? Feedback should be understandable. At times, you should use supervised feedback where you, the teacher, are grading a paper and clearly marking a mistake. But we should also use unsupervised feedback where students notice their own mistakes. To do this, students need a very clear standard of performance to judge their work against. In some fields, students adopt the mantra, fail early, fail often. For the rest of us, negative feedback can sting. As teachers, we must be mindful of this human reality and use all of the tools at our disposal to help our students separate feedback on their work from their sense of self. For feedback to be maximally effective, students need a reason and the time to revise. Instead of just saying, I'll do better next time, students need clear steps to improve, and then they need to practice following those steps. Showing students how their work gets better over time encourages real growth. Ultimately, beginners need to rely on others for feedback. It needs to go beyond what they already know, and it has to include constructive criticism. As teachers, the ultimate goal of feedback is teaching students to seek out negative feedback of their own, separating this draft I'm writing from my value as a person. There are many strategies teachers can use to give students feedback. See the QR code on the back of your zine for more information and printable resources. One very underutilized strategy is student self-assessment. This kind of assessment should answer the questions, where am I going, how am I doing, and what next? Peer feedback is another less commonly used form of assessment. Peer review is powerful when it is highly structured, when students are trained to give constructive, respectful feedback, and when it's part of a larger writing process. A strong class culture of mutual sharing is critical here. AI feedback can be tremendously helpful under the right conditions, especially for helping students edit for grammar and mechanics toward the end of an essay. The website School AI can be easily programmed by a teacher to look for very specific grammar errors and teach the students to correct the issue in context without fixing it for them. Teacher feedback is a form we're all familiar with, but I would encourage teachers to rely more heavily on student conferencing rather than grading papers. This is a favorite technique of English teacher Nancy Atwell, the first recipient of the $1 Million Global Teacher Prize in 2015. Her conferencing technique is further detailed through the QR code on your zine. My research on grading was heavily influenced by a podcast with Carl Wyman, a famous physics professor who compared the modern college lecture to the medical practice of bloodletting. The science just doesn't support the practice. Outdated grading and feedback methods persist despite the evidence. It's time we move on.